Good afternoon, Dr. Junaidah. We are Group 5. Today we will present question 5 for MGM 3143 Commercial Law. For Issue 1, Section 142, Emergency Authority, whether Chong, as Ibrahim agent, was legally authorized to sell the deteriorating durians without prior consent in emergency situation to prevent loss. Issue 2, Flooding Liability of Delay, whether the serious flooding in Johor, which prevented delivery to LIM, can excuse Chong for liability for delay and damage to the goods. Issue 3, Section 164 and 167, Agent Duties, whether Chong reached his duty by failing to inform or obtain instruction from Ibrahim before selling the durians, and whether he acts honestly and in Ibrahim's best interest.
Next is legal principle. The legal principle in this case are based on the law of agency under the Contact Act 1950. First, Section 142 states that an agent may take reasonable action in an emergency to protect the principal from loss. If immediate action is needed and it is not possible to obtain instruction from the principal, the agent may act without prior approval. Second, Section 164 states that the agent must follow the instruction given by the principal. If no specific instruction are provided, the agent must act according to the usual custom and practice of the business. An agent may be liable for any loss caused by failing to follow those instructions. Third, Section 167 states that an agent must exercise reasonable diligence in communicating with the principal and obtaining instruction when difficulty arises. The agent must also act honestly, in good faith, and in the best interest of the principal. A relevant case is Springing v. Great Western Railway, CO 1921 1KB 257. In this case, tomatoes were delayed during transportation and were delayed likely to spoil. The court held that the sale was justified because it protects the owner's interest. This case shows that an agent may sell perishable goods in an emergency to protect the principal from loss.
My name is CHEN, metric number S75290, and now I will continue present argument. For this argument, Chong can rely on Section 142 of the Contracts Act 1950, which allows an agent to take necessary action during an emergency to protect the principal from loss. In this case, severe flooding in Johor prevented Chong from delivering the durians to LIM. Since durians are highly perishable goods, the 5-day delay caused them to become overripe and unsuitable for Lim, who was known for his strict quality standards. Therefore, Chong reasonably decided to sell the durians at a reduced price to minimize Ibrahim's losses rather than allowing them to become completely worthless. This position is supported by the case of Springer v. Great Western Railway Co. 1921, where the sales of perishable goods was justified because it prevented further deterioration and financial loss. However, Ibrahim may argue under sections 164 and 167 that Chong failed to follow instructions and did not seek his consent before selling the durians. As an agent, Chong generally has a duty to communicate with the principal when difficulties arise. Despite this, the stronger argument is that the situation required immediate action. There is no evidence that Chong acted dishonestly or for personal gain. Instead, he acted in good faith and in Ibrahim's best interest by reducing the potential loss. Therefore, Chong is likely protected under sections 142 and would not be liable for losses arising from the emergency sales.
So now let's talk about application to facts for this case. So Chong's action can be justified under Section 142 of the Contract of 1950, which allows an agent to act in an emergency to protect the principal from loss. In this case, several flooding in Johor caused Chong's lorry carrying durians to be stranded over like 5 days, making delivery to Lim is impossible as scheduled. So since durians are highly perishable goods, the prolonged delay meant they would quickly become overripe and lose their market values. Under such urgent circumstances, selling the durian at a discounted price was a reasonable step to prevent a total loss to Ibrahim. Under Section 164, although an agent is required to follow the principal's instructions, Chong was unable to obtain directions due to poor connection caused by the flood. In emergency situation, agents are expected to act according to practical commercial standards, especially for perishable goods. So furthermore, under Section 167, an agent must act honestly with a reasonable diligence. In this case, there is no evidence that Chong acted for personal gains. Instead, he acted in good faith to minimize Ibrahim's losses. So this situation is similar to Springer v. Great Western Railway Company, where the court held that selling perishable goods in an emergency situation was justified to prevent further deterioration or loss. Therefore, Chong's actions are likely to be protected under Section 142.
In this case, Chong's action of selling Ibrahim durians without permission raises ethical concerns. Under utilitarianism, his decisions can be seen as normally acceptable because it helps reduce potential losses caused by the overripe durians. If the durians had not been sold, they would have become worthless, resulting in greater financial loss for Ibrahim. However, ethical evaluations must also consider the rights and interests of all parties involved. Ibrahim, as the owner, was deprived of the opportunities to decide how his property should be handled. He may have preferred another solutions, such as finding a new buyer. Furthermore, Ling did not receive the durians as agreed. Although Chong's intentions was to minimize losses and protect Ibrahim's interests, his failure to communicate and obtain consent undermines the ethical justifications of his actions. Therefore, while the outcomes may have been beneficial, the lack of respect of Ibrahim's decision-making right makes Chong's conduct ethically questionable. The next for moral reasoning and professional values. So, Chong's action should be evaluated based on professional values such as honesty, fiduciary responsibility, good faith, and accountability. As Ibrahim agents, Chong had a duty to act in Ibrahim's best interest and keeps him informed about important developments regarding the durian shipments. On the positive side, Chong demonstrated accountability by selling the overripe durians at a lower price to prevent them from becoming completely worthless. His intention was to minimize financial losses caused by the unexpected flood. However, Chong failed to uphold the value of honesty and fiduciary responsibility because he did not inform Ibrahim about the situations before making the decisions. As a result, Ibrahim was denied the opportunities to decide how his property should be handled. The lack of communication may also be seen as a failure to act in good faith.
In conclusion, Chong is likely protected under Section 142 Contra Act 1915 as severe flooding created an emergency situation. The flooding being beyond Chong's control may excuse liability of the delay and deterioration of the durians. Although Chong did not communicate with Ibrahim as required under Section 164 and 167, immediate action was necessary and there was no evidence of dishonesty. Legally, Chong is unlikely to be liable as he asked to minimize Ibrahim's losses. Ethically, his actions were justified as they protected Ibrahim's interests, to better communication will improve professional conduct. That is all for our presentation. Thank you.